Hello friends, Chillpill Games here. Today I want to show you a reference node. A reference node is a special kind of logic node which allows me to execute external behaviors. So for this example I've created a couple of behaviors, reference test and reference. What I'm gonna do is I will execute reference from reference test and I will pass data between the two. The importance of this node is particular when you want to separate complex functionality into sub-behaviors. So for example, I might have a patrol behavior, and patrol behavior might have a sub-behavior called move to a point behavior. So what I would do is I would pass a point data to the move to the point behavior. It will execute that behavior, return, then patrol behavior proceed to the next patrol point. It will pass the coordinates of the next point to the move behavior, and so on. Using the reference behavior allows me to subdivide it into two small behaviors instead of having one huge behavior which repeats the same move functionality over and over for each patrol point. And all in all, this is basically one of the most necessary elements in the behavior tree as far as I understand. So let's see what I have in the reference here. Okay, as you can see, it's basically a sequence of actions. And the first action is message in, and it is what I call an assignment node. Assignment node basically takes one parameter and assigns it to another parameter. And in this case you can see it has a left arrow which indicates that, in my case, that the data is coming externally. I can't set anything here. It will come from an external behavior. And I called it message in. Sequence can actually consist has a special parameter called scope. Right now it's set to external set, which, as I explained earlier, it will be set externally. It can also have external get, that's if I want to get data from this behavior, or it can be internal, which means that it will not be accessible from external behaviors. So in this case it is external set. I will set a string to message in. Once it executes, it will set message in string and override the default hello world string. Then sequence would execute the next node, which is a say hello action. But in our case it will not say hello, it will actually execute whatever data is stored in the message in parameter, which, as I've said earlier, will be set externally. And finally it will execute the final assignment node, which in this case has external get, which means it will take the message out data, which is right now set to out, and it will pass that data to the external tree, or rather the tree that is using this reference. And of course I always need a stop node to know when this behavior has finished executing. Okay, let's see what I have in my reference test. So reference test actually calls upon reference behavior, and this is the fancy node that I have. It is actually pretty complex UI wise, and I spent over a week figuring out how to get this working, but I think I got it right more or less. As I've said earlier, I'm basically learning as I go. It's not written in books anywhere, or I don't read books, so I would never know. Anyway, the reference has a drop-down which allows me to select from preloaded behaviors. In our case, we can, for example, select no, it will not execute any behaviors. Or we can select something from here. And in this case, we already have reference, which I set that, and it automatically populates the nodes that are exposed to be used externally, which in our case, if you remember, it had a message in with an external set and message out with an external get. And what I do here is I pass this string called new string, very original. It has a value in, and I set that to the message in assignment node. I don't need to actually execute this because this node will be executed by the reference behavior inside. So I didn't, on purpose, I didn't expose the parent and child hierarchy for this one. And same for this node. And this is actually something I forgot to do. This should actually be connected here. So when the behavior executes, it will grab the string, it will do fancy things inside of it, and it will return something to be set to the string. And then, as we have a sequence here as well, it will finally call this action, which is the message, to print out whatever has been generated by the reference behavior, and then finally stop. Alright, let's see. I'll update that. I'll start the game. So it's taking a while. So what do we see here? We see two messages, in almost instantly followed by out. And this is exactly the parameters that I've set. So if we go back to our behavior editor, and we'll look at the reference test first. As you can see, I am passing a string of in. Let's just, for another example, change it to, let's say, 1. And just for the hell of it, let's add another node called delay. It will just pause the execution until the delay executes, obviously. Let's make it, I believe it's a float parameter, right? See if it connects. Okay, yeah, it is a float. Let's make it a 3-second delay. So what will happen now is we're gonna set 1, we're gonna pass the data of 1 to the reference, then it will wait for 3 seconds and it will print out whatever the reference generated. Okay, let me go back to my reference behavior. And here, instead of printing out, I will print 2. Also, if you notice, I've added the color coding for the nodes, which makes it easier to determine what is external, what is internal, what belongs to what. So if I set this one to kind of green color, I update that, and I return back to my reference test, you will notice that the referenced nodes are colored green. Alright, let's see what happens in the game. So if you remember, it should print 1, it should wait for 3 seconds, and then it should print 2. That's about right. That was about 3 seconds. So there you go.